So today I'm going to be reviewing Star Wars Jedi Search by Kevin J. Anderson. And before I get into the review, I would like to recommend two things. Reading the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn and the Dark Empire comics. This book heavily references both of those stories, and you'd be doing yourself a favor just reading both of those first. They're both great stories, especially the Thrawn trilogy. The Thrawn trilogy in particular is probably something you are just going to be wanting to read if you're getting into Star Wars, the expanded universe, post Return of the Jedi. So yeah, go ahead and check those out. So the story starts off with Han Solo and Chewbacca on a diplomatic mission to the planet Kessel. And they soon find out that the occupants of the planet aren't friendly, so they end up getting shot down and they crash land on Kessel. We're soon introduced to a character named Moruth Duel, a drug kingpin who Han Solo used to smuggle for. We actually get to hear a little bit about the Kessel Run and what happened there. Han Solo and Chewbacca were smuggling spice for Moruth Duel, and the Imperials caught wind of this and ended up chasing the Falcon, and Han Solo had to dump the spice. And we find out that that spice actually belonged to Jabba the Hutt, so we kind of figure out why Moruth Duel and Jabba the Hutt hate Han Solo. Moruth Duel ends up sending Han Solo and Chewbacca to the spice mines, and we soon meet young Kip Durin, who's a character that becomes quite important later on. To make a long story short, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Kip Durin escape the spice mines, and they steal a ship and flee into the Maw cluster of Kessel. And here they find a thing called the Maw installation, which is guarded by 4 Star Destroyers led by Admiral Dala. And we'll get to her character later, but soon Han meets a character named Quishush, or Quizux. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she is a scientist who helped develop the Death Star, and she has currently created a new super weapon called the Sun Crusher. So during all this, Luke Skywalker is still trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, and he goes to the New Republic Council and asks for assistance in finding Force-sensitive candidates across the universe. For the most part, the council is on board with the idea, except for Senator Garm Bel Iblis, who's a character that shows up first in Timothy Zahn's Dark Force Rising. Garm Bel Iblis is concerned that one of the Padawans may turn to the dark side, and this is an idea that Luke is worried about constantly, and that's why it's taken him so long to start a Jedi Academy. But yeah, eventually the New Republic Council gives him the go-ahead, and Luke Skywalker goes on his Jedi search, hence the name of the book. So in this book, Lando Calrissian has his own little story. He's recently lost his mining operation on Niklon. You would know what that is if you've read the Thrawn trilogy. But anyway, he's tasked by Leia Organa Solo to go to the planet Umgal to find a potential Jedi candidate named Tymo. This chapter about the blob races is kind of fun, although it doesn't really go anywhere. If you took it out of the book, nothing really would change. Alright, so now we get to Leia Organa Solo and what she's doing. She doesn't really have a lot to do in this book. She's on Coruscant the entire novel, and she's busy building a galactic government while being a council member and trying to be a good mother. And she's dealing with the stress of her husband being missing the entire book, so there's that, and so you feel sorry for her. But yeah, one thing that you would learn from the Dark Empire trilogy is that Jacen and Jaina are being hidden on a secret planet called Anoth with Winter. And they have just recently turned 1.5 years old, and they're allowed to come back to Coruscant, which, I mean, I don't really get that. That's not really explained why they had to be hidden for their first 1.5 years of their lives, because apparently Jedi children are susceptible to the dark side at a very young age. I don't know, that's not really explained. But anyway, Jacen and Jaina come back to Coruscant while baby Anakin stays with Winter on Anoth. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what the characters are doing in the book. Eventually, Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian team up and they go to Kessel to find Han Solo. And that's where the climax of the story happens. Climax. All right, so now we can get to my rant about Admiral Dalla. There is one chapter where it explains her backstory, or at least a partial amount of her backstory. We find out that while she was training on the planet Carida, I think that's how you pronounce it, she was a master tactician, but never got the recognition that she deserved because she was a woman. Eventually, Grand Moff Tarkin finds out about her, and he ends up turning her into an admiral, and he gives her own fleet of 4 Star Destroyers. Knowing all this, you'd think that Admiral Dalla would be a competent fleet commander, but we soon find out that she and Grand Moff Tarkin were lovers. So one of the reasons why he sent her to Ma Installation is to hide her away from the Emperor, because apparently she's like the only woman in the Imperial Navy that is an admiral. And so the Emperor wouldn't like that, so I don't know, it's weird. But then you find out that she's never been in a space battle before. And that's like my biggest issue, like major spoilers here. Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Kip Durin steal the Sun Crusher, and they destroy one of her Star Destroyers because she is so incompetent at what she... Like, it's ridiculous. And then, don't even get me started with the second book. Like, she is a horrible fleet commander. She doesn't know what the frick she's doing. She only goes off of what old recordings of what Grand Moff Tarkin has taught in like seminars or something. It's like, she is a horrible villain. Talk about going from Grand Admiral Thrawn, who's like one of the best characters in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, and then you go to Admiral Dalla, and it's cringe. I feel sorry for her for how incompetent she is as a fleet commander. Like, there is one part in the book where it flashes back to Grand Moff Tarkin showing Admiral Dalla her fleet, and he says, "I'm giving you enough firepower to turn any planet into slag." And what does she do with her 4 Star Destroyers? Oh no, immediately one of them gets destroyed by Han Solo. Yeah, that was the only thing that I hated about this book. I liked this book. It was like, I liked it. Okay? Admiral Dalla sucked. I liked Moruth Duel better, even though that he was a frog guy and his species is called Ribbit. It's just So I've only read Jedi Search and Dark Apprentice, and so far they are not as bad as everybody says that they are. What I think is the Jedi Academy trilogy lives in the shadow of the Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy. And so whenever anybody thinks of Jedi Search or Dark Apprentice or Champions of the Force, they always compare them to the Thrawn books. So, I mean, if you want to pick up this trilogy, go in with an open mind and don't compare it to the Thrawn trilogy, because the Thrawn trilogy is almost perfect. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed this book. It's a 4 out of 5. It's good. I enjoyed it.